evening and a very warm welcome to all our ICA faculty, our guest faculty, and the attendees who are here today to attend the 150th webinar conducted by the ICA. It's a great honor for us that we have been really in a great moment of pleasure that this is the 150th webinar that we are conducting. We started the webinars way back in July on the same day, July 2020, and now we are finishing 150 of them. Since our motto is to have similar and uniform teaching and learning for all the students nationwide, we've had a collaborative learning in which all our webinars were covered by various faculty from all over the country. They're all senior experienced faculty who gave excellent webinars for which the students were very appreciative. So today also, our theme was to have a presentation where we have done a collaborative learning and a collaborative presentation of various videos taken from different hospitals in which we have compiled them all, and a very important topic on the modern anesthesia workstations, which are so important because there are so many coming in the market, and it's important for all of us to know that. So we have a video followed by a panel discussion, esteemed faculty who have joined for this. Thank you very much. And may we start the video, please?
Hello everybody. I'm extremely thankful to ICA for the opportunity to present this introduction video, compiling the videos recorded from various institutions across the globe as part of our collaborative learning initiative. We are here to celebrate the 150th ICA webinar, the Wednesday evening webinar series from the Indian College of Anesthesiologists. As anesthesiologists, we are invariably associated with anesthesia machine, which has, over the years, transformed into anesthesia workstations. We already had a session on the basic features and fundamental components of anesthesia machine, and what better stage than the prestigious 150th edition of ICA webinar to bring into discussion the sophistications and safety features of modern anesthesia workstations. It is a reality that we don't have to access all modern machines in a single institution. Therefore, we intend to have collaborative learning for exploring the technology, getting in institutions across the globe together in this platform. The evolution of anesthesia workstation has provided increasingly sophisticated solutions to increase the patient safety, improve the economy of anesthetic agents, enhance the environmental sustainability, and provide integrated platform for anesthesia services. We are all familiar with the basic Boyle's machine and its components, the high, intermediate, and low pressure system components. These are actually pneumatic components, all right? We have come a long way since then, adding components and features basically to improve the precision and safe anesthesia administration. The functional anatomy of modern anesthesia workstation includes electrical components in addition to pneumatic ones. Here is the outline of the GE Healthcare Aspire anesthesia workstation gas supply system. You can find the high pressure system, intermediate system follows, and then the low pressure system. Now this is the Drager Apollo anesthesia workstation gas supply system. Here also you can find the pneumatic components. The thing to highlight here is that although the basic outline remains the same, the actual functionality and specific features differ from manufacturer to manufacturer and from machine to machine. So the universal dictum is know your machine well before using it for patient services. Our theme of the day is Modern Anesthesia Workstations, Sophistications and Safety Features. And if you start thinking like more components, more complicated, the answer is no. In fact, all the advancements are made to make the workstation more user-friendly and with improved patient safety measures. The environmental sustainability is another important feature, as we have to reduce the carbon footprints from our anesthetic agents. So I would put it as our responsibility to actively pursue with reduce, reuse, recycle and recover. To begin with, let's go across to New Delhi's Gangaram Hospital, and Dr. Ashwin Marva is explaining GE Care Station 750 for us. Over to Dr. Ashwin.
Good evening. I am Dr. Ashwin from Institute of Anesthesiology, Pain and Perioperative Medicine at Sir Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi. I want to make a small disclaimer. This is not an advertisement for a particular brand of an anesthesia workstation. This video just intends to highlight the newer features which we get in the newer anesthesia workstations, which make our lives as anesthesiologists easier in the operation theatre. The newer machines have compact design. They are easy to use and they have tremendous safety features. The machine in question today is the GE Care Station 750. It has a various number of features which are available, and a simple power on and off button, a premium arm which can be used rotated and used appropriately, the efficient power and cable management with gas inlets, pin index and cylinder yoke system, which is compact and yet very useful. It has an auxiliary oxygen flow meter, an alternate oxygen supply which is illuminated, the auxiliary common gas outlet, the integrated swappable gas module which is autoclavable, the autoclavable breathing systems, the easy to use autoclavable canister for soda lime, the precise electrical flow which is there, and this machine has an integrated monitor which is state of the art and offers a various number of parameters for our use. It has the graphical representation alongside the numerical values. These features are extremely helpful. We have a number of pages in this machine. Like the display has about 5 pages which are customizable. We have the electronically regulated gas flows. We have various parameters which are displayed, like the airway pressure at dynamic level, the peak pressures, the plateau pressures, the mean pressures and the peak in slide. We also get compliance. This machine also enables us to preset the FIR2 and the gas flows. Plus we have the option of trends, where we can get the graphical as well as the numerical representation of the various patient parameters as per time. Also, we have recruitment maneuvers available with us, which are especially helpful in the high risk patients. Coming to the modes of ventilation, this machine offers a variety of modes of ventilation, like the volume control mode, the pressure control mode, the pressure control volume guarantee mode, the synchronized volume control as well as the pressure control mode, synchronized pressure control with volume guarantee mode, the PSPRO, the pressure support ventilation mode, and the continuous positive airway pressure with pressure support ventilation. So the new workstations help us titrate our anesthesia according to the needs of the patients, especially the sick ones. With this I conclude, and I hope this video will help you appreciate the new features of our anesthesia workstations. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Ashwin. Now I would like to highlight some more features. These are pictures from GE Care Station 620. Here you can navigate to see the pressure volume loops and flow volume loops, which can give us lots of clues to intraoperative respiratory events. Moreover, we can use this screen to familiarize our residents with these loops and teach the dynamics during each respiratory phase. If you want to find out how much of volatile anesthetic is consumed or how much of oxygen or air is consumed, you can find it through the fresh gas usage menu in this workstation. Thus, you no longer need to chart the fresh gas flow and volume percentage of the volatile agent dialed and calculate the amount of liquid agent consumed. Now let us go across to Kochi, Kerala and listen to Dr. Lakshmi Kumar, Professor and Head, Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences, introducing the new Draeger Precious A750 for us.
Dr. Lakshmi from Amrita Institute, and today I will be talking to you about the Draeger Perseus A500. So as a first part, I'm going to tell you the parts and the circuit. Right? So you have the fresh gas setting on the screen. Then you have the circuit which is attached, inspiratory limb, the expiratory limb of a circle system, and you have the connection to the bag. As you can see, there is a soda lime canister which will absorb the CO2 and allow a recirculation of the gases. And this is a gas collection system which leads on to the scavenging located at the back of the machine. Now, the Perseus A500 boasts about a unique technology as far as ventilation is concerned, called the turbine technology, which I will be speaking to you at the end of this presentation. Yeah, so you can see the gas pipelines and provision for cylinder are located at the back of the machine. The machine goes through a very rigorous self-test before we can start using it every day. It's currently on the standby mode, and to start we need to press the button and always confirm. So when the knob turns blue, that is when it starts. You have a virtual flow meter assembly here. We have set oxygen and air, and you can see the ventilatory modes displayed over here. Now, an interesting thing that this machine allows is for you to set the demographics of any patient as you desire. So when you set the weight, height, the advantage of this is the machine is able to calculate the MAC appropriate for the age. It will also tell you the ideal body weight and give an automatical adjustment for a ventilator setting. Say I put on volume control, the screen will display the tidal volume and the respiratory rate at an approximate calculation of the ideal body weight. So, now as you can see, the modes that are displayed here are the manual mode. Each of these you have to press to confirm. Now the manual mode is what we normally use at the beginning of anesthesia. When you've given your relaxant, before giving relaxant you could be able to see the CO2 trace, after which you are able to take on the bag and ventilate until you place the tube. The other modes that are displayed here are a pressure support ventilation, which is a spontaneous mode. We don't often use it, but perhaps towards the end of the surgery when the patient is breathing, you may be able to place the patient without giving additional relaxant. You have two conventional modes, the pressure control ventilation and the volume control ventilation. In the pressure control ventilation, you can see there is a set inspiratory pressure and you have a P and a respiratory rate. Of course, you know here the tidal volume is not guaranteed and would vary according to the compliance of the lung. Most traditionally used by most anesthetists will be the volume control mode that one can set at any set tidal volume. You can adjust the rate and PEEP to your choice, and you will notice that as you increase the rate, there is an automatical change in the IE ratio by the machine. The USP of this ventilator is a mode that is called as volume control auto flow, and I find this particularly useful when we do robotic and laparoscopic surgery. This is a dual mode that combines the characteristics of both volume and pressure control ventilation and is very similar to the PRVC that you might see, or the volume guaranteed pressure control. The useful thing, particularly in training institutions, is to know if you are setting a low flow that is adequate to the patient demands. Most of us will use flows of 1 liter or less during our surgery, and most of the time this appears to be adequate, except in extreme laparoscopy when you may have to increase the rate and minute ventilation commensurate with the CO2 load. So, how do you know if the inspired flow is adequate for the demands? The Draeger Perseus A500 gives you an econometer that will tell you by the presence of the indicator if the gas flow is less, adequate or more than required. The ideal setting would be for the indicator to remain in the green range. Now, For those who are interested in research, this will also give you other things like oxygen uptake. The rest of the parameters I will show on a ventilated patient. You can also get the trends and the data, the tabular trends of the time you started, the EtCO2, the plateau pressure and the PEEP. And this is also represented as values, the dynamic compliance, the minute ventilation, tidal volume, plateau pressure, all can be read off the screen for those who may want to engage in research.
The Drager low flow wizard is one of the tools used to keep your fresh gas flow settings to the minimum. Over to Dr. Mukul Kapoor for demonstration of the same.
From Amrita Hospital, Faridabad. Today I'll show you two new features which are there in the Drager Atlan machine. The Drager Atlan machine has the feature that it can show compliance of the lung, and this is the dynamic compliance which is shown. Another interesting feature in the machine is a low flow wizard, which is actually a guide to how much low you can go as far as flows are concerned. So now look at this. I am going at a flow at 2 liters per minute. If I reduce the flow now to maybe 500 ml per minute, look at the low flow wizard. It says that my total flow is 500 ml, but I've gone too early on low flow, so it says required fresh gas flow is can go even lower than this because no oxygen is being consumed, so that is why it is going to very low flow. So required flow is just to about 100 ml, but I have got to 500. So it is low flow wizard is a guide which says that I can go even lower than this. So we are in the efficient range as per the low flow wizard.
Okay, we shall keep discussing about the Drager technology further in this session. Now it is time to go across to Dr. Muhammad Bilal Delvi from King Saud University Hospital, Riyadh.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Bilal, Professor of Anesthesia from King Saud University, Riyadh, originally from KMC, Mangalore. Studied in Mangalore and I came here in 1995. So today we are going to discuss something about safety features of the machine AS2, and this will be a short video. And thanks to the AS and the Dr. Sanish for giving me an opportunity to speak to all of you. And this is our university hospital, and hope the presentation will be useful for all of you. Thank you very much.
This is the front of the machine. This is the gas module. You can find the Aladdin cassette vaporizer. We'll come to that later. This is the suction. There is a maximum setting and on setting where we can adjust the level of suction also. This is the knob. This is the master switch. This is the alternate oxygen control. Here is the fresh gas outlet if you are connecting an open circuit. Now the switch is selected to the circle system, and now auxiliary common gas outlet is active. This is the breathing system module. You can find the inspiratory and expiratory valves. You can find the APL valve and the back selector switch. You can find the ballon bottle type of ventilator. Here is the circuit connection with the filter. It's a soda lime canister. You can find the condenser unit, and behind that is the scavenging system connections. Now we will quickly go through the self-test process when you switch on the machine. It can be a full test or an individual test for ventilation and gas modules, or a test of circuit leak only. It's an automated process. There will be prompts on the screen which you have to manage accordingly. You can find this alert message. If you want to use ET control, the gas module software should be of a particular type, and you have to go through the checklist.
Thirty and 77.
Between 30 and 70.
Yeah. Put this
Back to ventilator.
Ventilator. Back. Manual.
Okay, ready now.
Yeah, ready. All the best.
Put it back to back.
Yeah.
Set APL well, maximum flush oxygen circuit, check patient suction, check emergency drugs, check manual resuscitation equipment, check intubation, the equipment, select start case, and okay, start case.
Start case.
When you press start case, there will be a menu which will prompt you to select the demographic data of the patient. It can be adult, pediatric, or you can create custom settings.
Start.
And you can set the age, etc., so that it will create ideal body weight and MAC predictions.
Manual this one.
These are the modes of ventilation available with this particular machine.
Yeah, all these monitors, yeah.
Yeah, both.
All these modes. And close.
Yeah, this is to demonstrate how the machine detects and alerts on oxygen disconnection.
Okay, put it back. Okay. Very nice.
Okay, now we shall look into certain safety features. Let us move to Amrita Hospital, Faridabad. Dr. Deepak Pahwa is about to explain the alternate oxygen control in GE Advanced CS2 workstation.
Deepak Pahwa, and I am working in Amrita Hospitals, Faridabad. So we are working on GE Advanced CS2 machine, and it has got a number of safety features. So one of the features is, suppose our electronic system of the machine, it gets damaged and it stops showing us any data or any feedback. Then in that case, we have to switch over to alternate oxygen source, which is provided over here. You just need to press this button, and then manually you have to set the oxygen and set the dial settings of your inhalational agent, and the machine will start delivering that. Of course, you will not be able to get any feedback from the screen, but it will actually tide you. It will actually help you tide over the crisis, wherein you can still deliver the patient the required amount of oxygen and inhalational agent. Once the machine starts working again, in that case you just need to press this button again and alternate oxygen source, and then you will get the feedback again from the machine.
Now let us look into the dragger backup manual mode. Dr. Neeti from Amrita Hospital, Faridabad is showing us this feature.
Hello, I am Dr. Neeti from Amrita Hospital, Faridabad. This is a dragger electronic machine, but once this electronic system gets shut down, then this is the safety feature that now you have to open the backup manual mode, and with hand you have to do backup manual mode. Whereas in case of GE, you can accidentally go into that mode.
Still with Amrita Hospital, Faridabad, 25% oxygen is one of the time-tested anti-hypoxia safety features. What's the status now? Dr. Neeti shows us this feature in GE Advanced CS2.
So this is a GE machine where we are using nitrous. So now once I reduce my percentage from 40, now you can see that the nitrous also get decreased and the ratio remains 1:3.
The concept of FgO2 and FiO2 is very important to understand while using closed circuit, aiming at maximum utilization of the fresh gas. Over to Dr. Mukul Kapoor for the explanation.
I'd like to show you a thing which is a new feature in the modern machines, that when you set the FiO2, please remember that the FiO2 which is delivered comes here as the fresh gas FiO2, and which is also called as FiO2, but the FiO2 actually going to the patient at minimal flows is much lower than that, and here in this case right now only 26% is going because we are using minimal flows for a very long time. So that is the difference between FiO2 and FiO2. Thank you.
The anti-hypoxia alarm is vital to patient safety. Immediate recognition is of paramount importance. Over to Dr. Shreya Das from Amrita Hospital, Faridabad.
I am Dr. Shreya Das from Amrita Hospital, Faridabad. I am going to show you the hypoxia detection system in our anesthesia machine. I am reducing the oxygen concentration to even below 25%. Now as you can see, the FiO2 is coming down and the EtO2 is also coming down gradually. It's come to 21% now. Now it's come to 20% and now we can see that the hypoxia alarm has gone off.
The auxiliary common gas outlet or ACOG connection is very important to note in our day-to-day practice. Here in the main screen, you can find the alert window showing ACOG in use in most of the modern machines. Many newer workstations incorporate this visual indication to alert the user regarding the selector switch for ACOG. Today's anesthesia workstation ventilators incorporate ICU-like capabilities, including a variety of ventilation modes and the ability to allow for patient triggering. While ICU ventilators are simply open circuit, using entirely the fresh gas for each breath and venting all expired gas into the atmosphere, the anesthesia workstation must incorporate a means of collecting and re-delivering the patient's exhaled gas in semi-closed circle system. This requirement presents unique engineering challenges in this design and control of anesthesia ventilators. May I request Dr. Muralidhar Kanchi, who is the Dean of Indian College of Anesthesiologists, to introduce the topic of anesthesia ventilators. Over to Narayana Health, Bangalore.
Thank you for this opportunity to spend some time with you. I'll be talking to you regarding the features in the anesthesia ventilator which add to the safety of patients who undergo surgical procedures. Patients who undergo intra-abdominal, intrathoracic, cardiac, neurosurgical procedures and any patients who is critically ill undergoing a high-risk procedure needs mechanical ventilation during the course of the anesthetic management. What are the parameters we look at when we adjust the ventilator? Some of them are exhibited on the screen here. One is the fresh gas flow here. We have the knobs for the fresh gas flow, the oxygen, nitrous oxide and the air being shown here. And the knobs are color coded and also you have a digital as well as analog representation of the fresh gas flow. If you notice, even the flow meter is color coded to see that we do not make mistakes. And usually we use 50-50 of oxygen and air in cardiac patients unless there is hypoxemia. In normal patients we use 50-50 of oxygen and air.
Modern anesthesia ventilators can be best classified as either bellows or non-bellows. In bellows ventilators, the bellows serve as a volume reservoir for the breathing gas and the ventilator uses a double circuit bag and bottle design to deliver breaths. The bellows are typically driven pneumatically. Bellows type ventilators can be subclassified as ascending or descending. Here we can see ascending bellow and this is an example for descending bellow type of anesthesia ventilator. Mechanically driven, electronically controlled piston type of ventilators use a computer controlled stepper motor instead of compressed drive gas to deliver the tidal volume. These are single circuit ventilators because there is not a separate ventilator driving gas circuit. The piston operates much like the plunger of a syringe in a cylinder of essentially zero compliance. The ventilator has a primary control over the volume displays in the circuit and uses the data from the pressure sensors to create pressure controlled breaths. The computerized controls can support a variety of ventilator modes including pressure or volume limited breaths in controlled, synchronized or spontaneous modes. You can note the location of the ventilator within the breathing circuit between the fresh gas inflow and the inspiratory valve. The breathing bag participates in the circuit during mechanical ventilation, acting as the reservoir for rebreathing. Also, you might have noticed the new terminology here called fresh gas decoupling. You can see the location of the piston ventilator, and you can find fresh gas decoupling valve marked immediately adjacent to that. Let us hear more about fresh gas decoupling from Dr. Gurudat CL, Professor from JSS Medical College, Mysuru, Karnataka, India. Over to you, sir.
So, good evening, everybody. I am Dr. CL Gurudat from JSS Medical College, Mysuru. So, I'll be discussing with you today about the fresh gas flow decoupling valves that are present in Gregor Fabius and also private anesthesia workstations. Now, here you can see the decoupling valve, and in these Gregor Fabius workstations, we have the piston-driven ventilators. So you can also see the piston-driven ventilator here, and this piston-driven ventilator is, the gases from the ventilator is connected to the inspiratory limb of the circuit, and the decoupling valve is present in between the fresh gas flow and the gases that are entering from the ventilator. So this is the inspiratory phase. Now you can see this is the inspiratory limb is there. So during inspiration, what will happen is the piston moves up. So once the piston moves up and the gases are, pushed into the inspiratory limb of the circuit, and during this time, there is a positive pressure is created in the inspiratory limb. So because of the positive pressure that is created in the inspiratory limb, the decoupling valve will automatically close. And once the decoupling valve automatically closes, the fresh gas flow directly cannot enter into the inspiratory limb of the closed circuit here. The fresh gas flow can only enter into the bag. In the meantime, the expired gases which are passing through the absorber are also coming and then entering into the bag, and the bag is inflated. So during expiration, what will happen? Here you can see the fresh gas flow is totally disconnected from the patient during inspiration. So during expiratory phase, what will happen is now the piston is descending down and it is creating a negative pressure in the ventilator chamber. So because of the negative pressure that is created in the ventilator chamber as well as the inspiratory limb, the decoupling valve will open. Now, because the decoupling valve is open now, the fresh gas flow will start entering into the chamber of the ventilator, and also the fresh gases plus the expired gases minus carbon dioxide which have been collected in the bag, they are also moving and then entering and then filling this chamber because of the negative pressure that is created. So the bag would have deflated here. So the same thing occurs. The next will be the inspiratory phase. So during inspiration, again, the decoupling valve will close and the bag gets inflated. So that means what is very important here is, during inspiratory phase, the fresh gas flow is decoupled from the patient. That is very important. And during inspiration, so our inspiratory phase, the bag will inflate, and during the expiratory phase, the bag will deflate. So this is very important for us to know. And I would like to just, show you a video wherein you can see the bag inflating and getting deflated. So this is the video. You can see this is the Gregor anesthesia workstation, the Fabius Plus, and the patient is on mechanical ventilation. And you can see the ventilator graphics. The patient is on volume controlled ventilation. I want you to focus on now the bag and then, the piston here. So this is the piston driven ventilator. So as you can see, as the piston is moving down, what will happen is the bag is inflating. As the piston is moving down, the bag is deflating, and as the piston is moving up, so the bag is inflating. That means the piston is moving up means there is the inspiratory phase, and moving down is the expiratory phase. So that is what the movement of the bag. So the bag is continuously moving in a workstation. When you have chosen for the controlled mechanical ventilation, then you know that there is a fresh gas flow decoupling valve is present. Whereas we'll just see now, the difference in a GE workstation, so where we don't have the decoupling valve. So I'll just show you so this is a GE workstation 9100 NXT. You can see here also the patient is on the mechanical ventilation. And here you can see the ventilator is of a bellows type of ventilator. So in this bellows type of ventilator, the bag is totally disconnected from the circuit, the closed circuit. That is the reason why the bag will not be moving at all during the inspiration or expiration. So this is quite opposite to the Draeger ventilator. Again, I'll just want to show you again how in the Draeger ventilator, the bag will be moving during the inspiration and expiration because it is included within the circuit, and also it will have the fresh gas flow decoupling valve. So again, I just want to show you again, once again. So you can see the bag movement during inspiration and expiration. So as the piston is going up, that is the inspiratory phase, the bag is inflating. As the piston is going down, that is the expiration, the bag is deflating. So now what are the advantages of the fresh gas flow decoupling valve? The most important advantage of a fresh gas flow decoupling valve is, the fresh gas is totally disconnected from the patient during inspiration. That means during inspiration, the fresh gas cannot directly enter the patient. So because of this, the most important advantage is that even when we activate the oxygen flush, wherein 35 to 70 liters of oxygen will be entering the patient. So here, that amount of oxygen, because fresh gas flow is disconnected during inspiration, it will not enter the patient, but it will be entering into the bag. So because of this, definitely hyperinflation of the lungs will not occur, and also it will not produce any barotrauma of the patient. So another very important advantage here is, when during expiratory phase, the ventilator will take that precise amount of tidal volume from the bag, whatever, and also from the fresh gas flow, whatever we have preset. That amount of precise tidal volume will be delivered to the patient. Now, what is the disadvantage of fresh gas flow decoupling valve? The only disadvantage of fresh gas flow decoupling valve is the changes made to the fresh gas flow are not reflected immediately. They are reflected late because mixing of the expired gases also will occur. So for a short time, the changes made to the fresh gas flow will not be directly going to the patient. So this is the only drawback with the fresh gas flow decoupling valve system.
Draeger anesthesia systems with turbine ventilators. We are moving into that topic. Turbine ventilators use mechanical energy to spin a small turbine or fan at very high speeds to create pressure and flow. Some possible functional advantages of turbine-based ventilators mentioned in the bench testing include better responsiveness to patient triggering, more effective pressure support ventilation, and in some cases, more accurate tidal volume delivery under high ventilatory workload. Over to Dr. Lakshmi Kumar from Amrita Cochin to explain about turbine ventilators in Draeger Precious.
Good afternoon once again, and this is a small description on how the turbine flow with a blower forms the functional basis of the ventilatory strategy in the Draeger Perseus A500 machine. Now, this is a schematic representation. This is where the machine knobs are, showing an electronic mixing of oxygen and air or nitrous. The gas mixes, comes through the vaporizer, and then enters a circuit, and this is a turbine that is equipped with the blower. Now, the speed of the blower will vary between inspiration and expiration, and the flow is actually controlled by the PEEP valve that is located in the circuit, and this circuit is in continuity with the reservoir bag, which is part of the breathing apparatus, and you will see that the bag inflates and deflates with respiration. The key part is the turbine to which a blower is attached, and that is the part which will allow breathing to occur. And the PEEP valve will be set based upon the inspiratory pressures that you set during pressure controlled ventilation or the volume that you set during volume controlled ventilation. If you actually lift up the breathing the lid of the machine, you will find that this is the turbo, inside which there is a blower which cannot be removed. So this is the one that controls the flow and directs the ventilation. And this is a brief video that will actually show you this. The blower entering the lungs. And this is the PEEP valve. The APL valve is bypassed, and this is the reservoir bag. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Hope you have noticed that unlike piston ventilators, turbine ventilator design implies that the breathing bag empties during inspiration and refills during exhalation. There is no decoupling valve in this type of ventilators. The bag's motions may serve as a visual indicator of ventilation and, depending on set fresh gas flow, of circuit leak also. The McQuay flow eye anesthesia workstation uses a novel device called the volume reflector to act as the reservoir. The volume reflector is essentially a long plastic tube with a volume of 1.2 liters coiled compactly to fit in the anesthesia workstation. The volume reflector is functional and in circuit during all modes of ventilation. The volume reflector therefore acts as a volume reservoir while at the same time preventing mixing between the gas at the two ends of the tube. Along with newer modes of ventilation, the present anesthesia ventilators also provide lung recruitment maneuvers in single step or multi-step as per the user-defined pressures without having to disconnect the circuit or switch over to manual mode. In the example given here, you can find the compliance significantly improves with application of lung recruitment maneuver. This facility can contribute to reducing the ventilator-induced lung injury, the major cause of postoperative pulmonary complications. As a result, the length of hospitalization and patient well-being can be positively impacted. The recruitment maneuvers and compliance trend will help the anesthesia provider to decide who benefits and how much PEEP is to be applied during ventilation under anesthesia. Now let us focus on another key component, newer precision vaporizers. Yes, I know you are already thinking about the Aladdin cassette vaporizers. Dr. Mohammed Bilal has sent us this video from King Saud University, Riyadh. These are Aladdin 2 cassettes that contain the anesthetic liquid and serves as the detachable vaporizing chamber. The electronic vapor control unit is internalized within the anesthesia workstation. You can find the copper contacts of the electronic bus that power the capacitor plates which sends the level of the liquid agent. These cassettes are color coded and magnetically coded. You can also find the inflow and outflow spring loaded valves at the rear side of the cassette. The machine has sensed the liquid agent as desflurane, so you have to select it and then dial the concentration in the anesthesia workstation. Injection vaporizers were introduced with high-end anesthesia workstations like McQuay Flow Eye and Drager Zeus. Here, electronic control allows instantaneous changes in vapor concentrations to achieve the set end-tidal anesthetic concentration values even with very low fresh gas flows. The Drager Diva vaporizer, which is integrated into Zeus anesthesia machine, allows for target controlled anesthesia with closed loop quantitative control of the delivery of oxygen, carrier gas and the anesthetic vapor. Newer workstations have integral breathing systems. This targets economy in the use of volatile anesthetic agents and gases for reasons of both cost and atmospheric pollution. Internal circuits can also play a role in the heat and moisture retaining properties of the circle system. Here you can see the expiratory and inspiratory ports for the connection of the patient breathing hoses and also the flexible breathing bag holder for the breathing bag. On the inspiratory valve, you can add the oxygen sensor. On top of the chassis, you can see the inspiration and expiratory valves. Here you can also find the APL valve as well as the connection port for the PMAX valves, the APL bypass valve and the fresh gas decoupling valve. On the bottom side, you can see the flow sensor connection, the pressure measuring line, anesthetic gas scavenging port, and connection ports for the ventilator and for fresh gas hoses, as well as the connection port for the carbon dioxide absorber. Furthermore, you may find the connector for breathing system heater and the port for the sample gas return. Okay, all these advancements are in fact leading to target controlled anesthesia. Where the ET control mode is used, anesthetists set targets for end-tidal oxygen concentration, minimum flow rate and end-tidal volatile anesthetic concentration. The system uses an algorithm to adjust both fresh gas flow and vaporizer to achieve the set values via a negative feedback control system. Fresh gas flow automatically reduces down to the minimum set value, although this can be increased during the case to compensate for the system leaks. During the induction phase, the fresh gas flow well exceeds the patient's minute ventilation. You can see here minute ventilation of 5 liters per minute and the fresh gas flow is 10 liters per minute. All the patient gas consumption is made of fresh gas flow. Approximately half the gas goes to the waste scavenging system. At lower fresh gas flows, the patient's delivered minute ventilation is made up of both fresh gas flow and recycled gas. In this example, 40% of the patient's minute ventilation is from the fresh gas flow and the rest 60% from the recycled gas. 2 liters from fresh gas flow out of a minute ventilation of 5 liters per minute. As fresh gas flow is reduced, more recycled gas makes up the patient's delivered minute ventilation. As more recycled gas makes up the patient's delivered minute ventilation, you can see the FiO2 change. The FiO2 decreases because oxygen is not being replenished from the fresh gas flow. At this rate, eventually most of the oxygen will be consumed within the recycled gas and there is a risk of delivering hypoxic mixture to the patient. What if you had information on how much of total oxygen you need within the fresh gas flow to maintain your target FiO2? EcoFlow provides data on the total oxygen required within the fresh gas flow to help ensure the minimum FiO2 target. In this example, the oxygen total flow from both air and oxygen, given in green, is below the target FiO2 of 25% as represented by the blue flag. By increasing the O2 flow at or above the FiO2 flag of 25% but maintaining the total flow of 1 liter, low flow can still be maintained, but also ensuring that the target FiO2 is maintained. This is the EcoFlow software from GE. When we discuss about low flow anesthesia, these are the various terminologies. Eventually what we need is to set an end tidal oxygen target and end tidal anesthetic or volatile anesthetic concentration. Now how do we start ET control? You press start and then you are required to select the following parameters. We have to set the end tidal oxygen, the end tidal volatile agent required, and you can set the minimum flow. Now the machine will keep on monitoring the end tidal oxygen concentration and end tidal volatile anesthetics and will keep on adjusting the fresh gas flow. The minimum flow set by the user will be maintained throughout the using cycle of this system. These are the end tidal control advantages. This is a simplified management of fresh gas flow and volatile agents. There is reduced burden and workload for the anesthesiologist, and we can devote more time for other patient needs and operating room activities. With an array of decision support functions and capabilities, the ZEISS IE ushers in the era of target controlled anesthesia. Simply set targets for each phase of anesthesia process and let the ZEISS IE calculate a reasonable and effective dose. You can use TCA regardless of the desired fresh gas flow rate or interval all the way down to closed loop ventilation. This gives you the most cost effective anesthesia possible by keeping gas consumption to an absolute minimum. Scavenger and operating room ventilation efficiency are the two most important factors in reduction of waste anesthetic gases. Now over to Aster Medicity Kochi, Dr. Anupama will demonstrate the anesthetic gas scavenging system for us.
Namaste. I am Dr. Anupama. I am consultant anesthesiologist from Aster Medicity Kochi. First of all, I would like to thank all the organizing committee members of this ICA webinar and Dr. Sanish for giving me this opportunity to speak on a topic in this ICA webinar. Next allotted 2 to 3 minutes, I would be discussing in brief regarding the types and the basic components of the AGSS, that is what we call it, anesthetic gas scavenging system, and the type of scavenging system that we use in our institute. But in detail regarding the physics or the mechanism of action of the different components is beyond the scope of the discussion in this allotted time. Okay, now let's proceed. So basically the anesthetic gas scavenging system, they are of two types. One is active and the other one is passive. The basic difference between the two is that in a passive system, the waste gases passively it is proceeded down a corrugated tubing and it is just disposed outside the operating room environment. That might be either through an open window or a pipe passing through an outside wall or an extractor fan which is vented to the outside air, etc. Whereas in an active system, there is a suction or a vacuum which is applied to pull the anesthetic gases actively and it is disposed to the outside environment. So this is just a picture of a passive AGSS. Where the system that we use in our institute is an active AGSS. So I cannot show you a passive type. So this is just a picture. You can see that the upper part, that is the part where that bellow system and everything is there. So there is a corrugated tubing which is attached to the exhaust port of that breathing circuit, and this corrugated tubing, it just passively takes away the gases and it is just vented outside. The type of scavenging system that we use in our institute is the active one. And in active itself, there are several versions available depending on the hospital's type of waste gas disposal system. So there is something called active adjustable flow, active AGSS with a flow indicator, etc. So whether active or passive, AGSS has some basic components like a collecting system, transfer system, receiving system and a disposal system. But one point to note here is that it is not compulsory that all these components exist as different separate components in all these machines. In some of the modern machines, this collecting system and the receiving systems are the same. So collecting system is something which gathers the excess waste gas from either the APL valve or the exhaust port of a ventilator. And a transfer system, it is that corrugated tubing which collects this gases from the collecting system to the disposal system. And disposal system is what we have explained right now. That's either active or passive. And most of these disposal systems, they have a terminal unit also, which is far away from the operating room environment, that may be either placed on the rooftop or terrace. So as you can see here, as we have explained, this collecting system or the receiving system you cannot see here, but because those parts are actually integrated inside this whole assembly. So the anesthetic gases or the excess gases are collected inside those collecting system, from where this transfer system or this corrugated tubing, which is attached to the lower part of that bellow, that will collect this excess gas from the collecting system, and then it is connected to the AGSS port of this anesthesia pendant. And as all of you know, anesthesia pendant means it is a setup where anesthesia workstation, the working area, the power sources, other gas sources, the data communication interface, everything is in a single arm. So from there, this through inside this pendant, it is ducted outside through the roof top to the disposal system. So this is the terminal most unit of a disposal system. That's the AGSS plant control unit, which is kept on the terrace. And this particular type of this disposal system or the terminal unit is called a blower or a low vacuum type. There are so many different components for this plant. There is an electrically driven motor. There are ducts to collect the gas from the transfer system, as well as duct to duct it outside. There is a control panel, and the main mechanism or the main part is a mechanism to create a low vacuum or a suction. So this will create a vacuum or a suction, and the amount of suction or the vacuum that is regulated, that is shown on the pressure gauge there. And then this will pull the excess waste gas from this collecting system through the transfer systems to this final disposal unit. This is there are options for auto control, manual control, and there are motors which are electrically driven, and finally there are ducts to vent it outside. That is in brief the AGSS. Thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before winding up, let us go across to Riyadh again to see the MRI compatible anesthesia workstation and MRI compatible monitoring gadgets with Dr. Bilal. You can see the piston driven ventilator integrated and a broad range of ventilation modes depending on the patient you cater to. It has an integrated compact breathing system also with this workstation. This is a view of the MRI compatible hemodynamic monitor also. Okay, right. It is worth noting that modern anesthesia practice also embraces new age technology in informatics in perioperative medicine, state-of-the-art point-of-care monitors in the operating room, and precision drug delivery systems in addition to modern anesthesia workstations. Our Dean International of Indian College of Anesthesiologists, Dr. Kumar Belani, has sent us a video from University of Minnesota showcasing the settings of a modern operating room suite, anesthesia information management system, and point of care monitors in the OT.
Greetings, my name is Dr. Kumar Belani and I'm a professor at the University of Minnesota Hospitals, and I have with me two of my colleagues. On the left is Dr. Irina Shugeva, and on the right is Dr. Lily Glokel, and they will explain to us what we have in the operating room for the devices and for our supplies. And I will start with Irina, if you can tell me what we have here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hello, again, my name is Irina Tugayeva, and I will show you our workstation here. So this is anesthesia machine, and we have a few monitors here. We'll start with basic ASA monitor. So we have EKG here. We have blood pressure cuff that is not attached to it, but it measures blood pressure cuff. We have pulse oximetry. We also have a temperature probe here. On top of those monitors, we have a BIS monitor that is used on almost all adult patients at this point of time. We have a fluid warmer and one more rapid fluid warmer device. Again, to monitor and to make sure the patients are warm, we are using bear huggers on almost all of our patients just to make sure we maintain normothermia. Moving forward, we have twitch monitor. Again, the goal is to have a twitch monitor on all of our adult patients just to make sure that patients are fully reversed before they go to the post-op area. Again, standard monitors here. This is a cardiac room, so we have extra monitors like hemosphere and oximeters, head oximeters that are presented here. This is a neuron, so it's basically the machine that connects our monitors with a computer, so everything automatically goes to the record of the patient. One more device that we have is called Quantra. It is the new generation viscoelastic machine that helps with maintaining hemostasis during the procedure. Again, it is present in all of our cardiac rooms and hopefully will be present in other rooms soon. All of our machines are standardized, and in our drawers we have a few things that are necessary for safe care for the patient. So we have helic lamps. We also have twitch monitor that is a backup monitor here. We have different types of tapes for the patient, for the tube and for the IV securement. We also have a special tape for the eyes. Those are two different kinds. And we have EKG monitors, and we have stylets for ET tube. Also, a few things that are here. We usually have the surgery lube. It's just a lubricant, and we have benzene here to secure tube or IVs or A lines. One more drawer that we have here is having the airway devices. We have different Ovasapien airways here, different adult sizes. We have two different kinds of blades. We have this blade and one more blade here, and we have different sizes, adult sizes of Miller and Mott blades. Also, we have different sizes for the tubes from 6 to 8, and we have nasal airway and big Yonter suction that is here, and different smaller size suction. So this is what we have in this machine, and now we will tell you more about the other part of our OR, and this is Pixis machine, and Dr. Gelko will cover that.
Thank you. So Lily, can you tell us about where we get our drugs and other necessary items for taking care of patients?
Yes, this is our basic anesthesia station, and the system we use is called Pixis, so we generically call it Pixis. It's a secure storing system that will storage most of our basic medications that we'll need for a general case of anesthesia. I mentioned that it's secure location, so it will need, it's password protected, it will need clearance, and the one we use uses fingerprint for access. So all of the medications that are here are only going to be available to authorized providers. On the top two drawers, we have The most commonly used medications that are needed for induction of general anesthesia, for example, I have different vial sizes of propofol. I will have ethomidate in this drawer. I will have also lidocaine. I will have some of the most commonly used neuromuscular blockers. I have succinylcholine here. I have rocuronium already pre-packed. Also, because of some of depending on supply chain, sometimes these medications will be already pre-packed, but sometimes they will not be pre-packed. We also keep handy empty syringes of different sizes and pre-printed labels, so that in case we need to draw our own medications, it will be very easy to identify it and avoid any medication mistakes. Other medications that we keep already here are phenylephrine, neuromuscular reversal, Sofran, Decadron, and some blood pressure medications like labetalol and esmolol. If we were to need additional medications, some of those will be here. For example, we have pre-packed syringes of calcium chloride for emergency medications. We have pre-packed syringes of epinephrine. But additional vasopressors will be available right next to the Pixie system in a non-secure location that's readily available, and this is going to include epinephrine, magnesium, concentrated vasopressin, morphenylephrine, and amps of naloxone. And this is always, if the protocol is that if these get used, pharmacy will be notified and these will get restocked immediately. Additional supply medications that will be available include dextrose, nitroglycerin, more vasopressors. Here we have milrinone. And we also use these to store additional supplies like IV supplies, like different sizes for IV access, pre-packed sterile saline flushes, IV tubing, and sometimes this drawer is used to have like an emergency IV kit ready to start an IV. Other things that will be in the lower drawer are also related to the practice of general anesthesia. So we will have some face mask, nasal cannulas, we have some more NG tubes, and some temperature monitoring devices. I would say that with this, we managed for a standard patient, we managed to obtain everything we need in an emergency case in this anesthesia or the Pixie station. However, we have a cupboard. We are seeing here our TE monitor that's usually stored always in the cardiac rooms, but we have an additional cabinet where we will have additional supplies, including central line access, pillows for patients, additional or different sizes of non-invasive blood pressure monitoring. We have the stickers for the Twitch beam monitor that we saw before, additional medications like additional inhaling, and everything that's related to IV fluids.
Thank you. And I can see that we have the bear hugger blankets there and the biz monitoring electrodes over there. So, and then we have the central line kits and the A-line kits kept in the cupboard.
Yes, those are also as part of the airway. We mentioned that all of the intubating supplies are in the lower drawers of the ventilator, but we have different sizes of LMAs and we have bushes available in case of a difficult airway. And that's additional to what's included in the difficult airway card that we will see soon.
And you can see here the bio patches, which we use routinely to prevent infection through these central lines. And we also put those over the arterial lines. Thank you. And you can see here the central stations. It's all centrally monitored. We have an electronic record here, which is called EPIC, which uses technology for anesthesia recording and perioperative care. And all the medicines that are used are scanned with this scanning device so that they can go on record for the patient. And you can see here that the monitoring includes invasive monitoring for patients when it's needed, and we have suction always ready for for our patients. Some rooms like this one will also have point of care testing for blood gases and hemoglobin, and that's available in some of our rooms, and so that we can get results right away. We also have infusion pumps, as you can see here, stored, and we can get as many pumps as we need. Typically, a case will have 3 or 4 infusion pumps. And you can see the disposable carbon dioxide absorbers at the bottom of the machine, and we have heating capability to keep the rooms warm. And you can see every room has a telephone, and then there's a clock to keep track of time during our care. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed what we have for our back table, and we will see how it compares to the other ORs in other parts of the world. If there are any questions, I'll be available to answer those at the time of the webinar. Thank you. Bye. University of Minnesota, signing off.
Thank you very much, sir. We are actually transforming our anesthesia practice to the era of smart ventilation control, where artificial intelligence enabled systems will take care of anesthetic goals like maintaining the hemodynamic goals and appropriate depth of anesthesia. In spite of all these technological advancements, the minimum monitoring standard mandates that a qualified anesthesia personnel shall be present in the room throughout the conduct of all general anesthetics, regional anesthetics, and monitored anesthesia care. We shall now proceed to the much awaited panel discussion on this special edition of ICA webinar 150th episode. You are welcome to text in your comments and query. We shall take the audience Q&A after the panel discussion. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Namaste and good evening to all. You all have been witnessing the most sophisticated anesthesia machines now available in India as well as abroad. Through the video, we were able to familiarize you through certain improvements which have come up in the last 20 years with the help of artificial intelligence and intelligence augmentation. And one may really wonder whether this is absolutely needed. Well, the only answer is that this is needed in the next 10 to 15 years' time. And I am sure in every country, or this sort of machines, and the practice with such sophistication is going to be universal very soon. And I'm sure those who watch this particular video may be having some sort of a clarification to be done. And we are doing that particular clarification through a panel discussion. All your panelist members are the people who spoke to you so far. And the moderator of this panel is Dr. C.L. Gurudat. Gurudat and Dr. Sanish were the architects of this particular topic. They edited, compiled, and presented this topic to you. And Gurudat is an accomplished anesthesiologist and a teacher for excellence. He had his initial career with the Indian Army, later settled out to the academic areas, and his home ground was really Mysore of Karnataka. And he was with the government institutions, and now later settles to another institution nearby called the JSS Medical College, Mysore. And he's one of the best teachers in the country, and he has been awarded by the state, the Rajiv Gandhi University of Karnataka, and the Medical Council. And he's an eminent teacher, and everybody really look forward to him as his teacher or mentor. And along with this, Dr. Gurudat Dr. Sanish also joins, and Sanish also will be helping to how the discussion carried out. And the other person who is helping you all in the panel discussion is Dr. Garg. Garg also not needing any introduction. Garg is a well-known anesthesiologist and an eminent teacher. Well, I request Gurudat to kindly lead the panel discussion and give the answer to all what they want on their doubts. Over to you, Dr. Guru.
Thank you, sir. At the outset, actually, I would like to thank the ICA academics, especially, Dr. you, sir, Dr. Radhakrishnan, Dr. Jayashri Sood, and, Dr. Sanish, and everybody of ICA academics for this opportunity that has been given to me. I feel that it's an honor to moderate this panel discussion and have very eminent panelists who are going to clear all our doubts regarding the modern workstations. You all know that anesthesia started almost 180 years back with just a Schimmelbusch mask, and it gradually got updated to a basic anesthesia machine. I still remember after passing my MD and then went to Bellary Medical College, the government medical college, as an assistant professor. So the next day itself, I was called in for providing a anesthesia for a private case in a nursing home. So when I went there, actually I was searching for the anesthesia machine. There was no anesthesia machine. So I was showed one air ether resuscitator that had a Boyle's bottle with Oxford bellows. And they were all using their, this kind of air ether resuscitator for providing anesthesia. So I learned how to provide anesthesia with that air ether resuscitator. Even I bought a small box containing this. I started going to different places also giving anesthesia. Of course, it was very crude anesthesia. Now, anesthesia has grown up like anything. It has become highly sophisticated. We have highly modern, highly sophisticated workstations and with a lot of applications. And it is very important for us to know all the applications that are there in that particular workstation so that we can really use those applications. Many times we'll not be knowing about those applications. Yes, of course, with this panel discussion, I think we'll be able to know many of those applications which are there in the modern workstations. So first, let me start with Dr. Kumar Balani from the University of Minnesota. Sir, I just saw your the video. It was excellent. The amount of gadgets, everything. Your motive is a mini medical store, having everything at hand for the anesthesiologist. Definitely, the stress on the anesthesiologist will decrease if so many things are available to be used at hand. So my question for you is, sir, that you also showed the anesthesia depth monitor, the BIS monitor also in attached to that workstation what you had. So one of the questions is, since we have always the agent monitoring is always there continuously, the mark of the agent we are also seeing on the monitor. Should you have to use the depth monitor for all the patients under GA? Or are you using the depth monitor?
So we first started to use the BIS in patients who were elderly, usually around 65 plus. And the main reason we started to do that is we found that many of our elderly patients were being overdosed with anesthetic, and they had a delayed wake-up time. And post-operative cognitive dysfunction was being discussed in the literature quite widely, and that's a current topic of discussion. So we started to use the BIS monitor, and we've shown that by using that, we are significantly able to lower the anesthetic concentration for these patients without any increase in awareness. So after we did that, now it's become reasonably routine to use the BIS in non-adults. And we recently, as part of a multi-center study, that was funded by Medtronic, we showed that it had benefit even in children who are older than 3 years of age. So just like we are monitoring oxygen to be precise, it's not a bad idea to monitor the sedative effects of anesthetics. When we have available this EEG technology, there are different methodologies that can be used. The one we're using is the BIS technology. So it helps us to precisely monitor the anesthetic levels in these patients. Just like you measure blood pressure, you got to measure what the drugs are doing to the brain, so you know precisely what it is, because everybody is different. They don't have the same needs as somebody else. So you can go by averages, but here you're becoming more precise.
Sure, sir. So another thing is, the malignant hyperpyrexia is almost very rare in India, but it is relatively probably not so uncommon in US and other Western countries. So do you have a separate anesthesia workstation for managing these patients with a family history of malignant hyperpyrexia, sir?
Okay, one thing, I don't think the incidence of malignant hypothermia is lower in India because it's a universal disease and it's genetically transmitted. And I think the reason is we're not collecting data in India as we do in the other countries where the data is being collected, registered, and patients are being analyzed. Genetic testing is more and more common these days. And we have a precise way of telling most of the patients with malignant hypothermia. So what we do for patients who might be susceptible to malignant hypothermia, we do what's called preparing any machine you have. Basically removing all the disposables, putting fresh ones on, and then changing the soda lime absorber and following the manufacturer's instructions, because some machines may not have parts that can be removed. But the thing is, it's just like cleaning your car. You detail the machine so that it's absolutely clean as possible, and you remove the vaporizer if it's removable. If it's not easily removable, you make sure it's empty, and you flush the machine, measuring the exhaled gases that are coming out. So we typically clean this machine by doing what I just said. And then after we flushed it for about 20-30 minutes, we again take off the disposable tubes, and then we use activated charcoal filters, both on the inspiratory loop and exhalation loop out of the tubing. And then you should be pretty much set, because you won't be able to measure any inhaled gas at all. It takes about 30 minutes to 40 minutes to do this, and you don't have to bring a separate machine, and you can use this clean machine for patients. And we are always prepared to treat patients with malignant hypothermia because we may not know who has it. And any place where we anesthetize patients and we're going to be using inhaled agents, or if we're going to be using succinylcholine, we will keep dantrolene available. And now we have this modern dantrolene where you got a small vial. It has 250 milligrams. You just put 10 cc's of distilled water, shake it, and you can give the first dose of dantrolene very quickly. So you don't need a lot of people to come and mix it and administer the dantrolene. So it's now quite easy to handle these cases.
Look, sir, one doubt. Can we use ICU ventilator here, so that with TIVA ICU ventilator for these kind of patients, instead of going such a big process of cleaning the anesthesia workstation?
The thing is, you're cleaning these workstations anyway between cases, so it doesn't add anything other than maybe 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And bringing an ICU ventilator takes us longer time. But obviously, yes, you can certainly use an ICU ventilator and do the case with TIVA, where you don't involve the anesthesia machine at all. There's no problem in doing that. Whatever is convenient for most of you, that should be okay. Most practitioners should be all right. And as long as the ICU ventilator has not been exposed to inhaled agents, and it's also clean.
Thank you, sir. My next question will be to Dr. Lakshmi Kumar from Cochin. Madam, are you there, madam? I'm not able to see you on the screen.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah, I've been very much here, Dr. Gurudat, and I can't think of a better person than you to kind of compare this. And I had no fears when and you gave me the questions because I knew whatever I didn't know you would answer.
Madam, one question for you is, many of the workstations, especially, Dragon Atlan 350, probably you might have used it, have the option of heating the inspired gases to 37 degrees. Since the inspired gases already are, what we are using is the expired gases from the patient already are warmed and also they are humidified. Should we have to still heat the inspired gases?
Yeah, so I actually did read up after you put forth this question. It's intuitive that when you're having low flows of 1 liter and obviously recirculating expired gas, the body's process of humidification is actually conducted through and through. But I think there was one research paper which actually looked at this Fabius with the thermal heating filament and a heat and moisture exchanger and just with a heat and moisture exchanger. And they have said that the use of low flows does preserve the heat and humidity. However, the addition of using a HME filter improves the heat and humidity to a more optimal level, because whatever you might do, it does not match the process that you would get in a process of normal breathing by a patient. So whatever low flows you may use, you don't get the target temperature and humidity. The addition of a HME filter will bring it closer to normal. The addition of a heating filament perhaps does not. And that's my understanding on this.
Another advantage, it is said that, when the expired gases come through the breathing circuit, they are exposed to the outside temperature. There will be condensation of this water vapor. And if this condensation of water vapor occurs on the expiratory valve or the inspiratory valve, then there can be, these valves may not be functioning properly. So in order to decrease this condensation of water, I think they have added this heating element also.
So would you recommend that? Because other than the Fabius primers or whatever that thing, the other machines do not have that heating.
Now with modern workstations, they want to include this, heating the, the inspired gases going to the patient plus the expired gases also. One more thing, madam, this many of the machines can also be mounted to the ceiling. So is there any advantage of ceiling mounted workstations?
So when new OTs are designed, I always despair as to how to make it efficient and yet, yes, aesthetic. So to me, to have something mounted on the ceiling does away with a lot of wires and tubings on the floor that you tend to trip. Even as Dr. Kumar Belani was showing his OT, I said, how many equipment and where are all the wires? So I think that provides an answer. It's on the ceiling. It has a rotary knob that you can rotate through, I'm told about 300 plus angle, and it keeps the clutter out of the way. However, the intuitive drawback I would see is that if I had to move my machine, like you said, can I get my ICU machine? I can't move this machine if it's mounted on the ceiling. And I mean, these are the obvious advantages and disadvantages that I can just think of straight away. This is more aesthetic. It probably is more comfortable, gives us more space, will allow more efficient OT cleaning, but perhaps has a limitation of being confined to a single OR.
That is the greatest disadvantage, madam, because we keep moving our workstations. If one of the workstations is not working, so we get the other.
You get another.
Exactly. Thank you, madam. So my next question will be Dr. Kanchi Muralidhar. Sir, can I ask you a question, sir?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, because now the oxygen analyzer is one of the most important part of the anesthesia workstations, because with oxygen analyzer only we know exactly how much of FiO2 the patient is receiving. So one doubt is that should we have to calibrate this almost every day?
Very important question. Before I answer this, I raised my hand when Dr. Belani was replying to the BIS and anesthesia. Actually, Dr. Belani was involved with me in one study where we demonstrated that as the temperature decreases during cardiac surgery, the anesthetic requirements come down and the MAC value also comes down. So we have demonstrated that for each degree drop in the temperature, a mean decrease in the MAC was about 0.13%. So this to some extent answers your question that why we should have both BIS as well as end-tidal agent concentration. So that I would like to add to the discussion. And regarding the analyzers, it depends upon the manufacturer's recommendations. Most of the times, when you're using the anesthesia machine for the first time, of course, you have to calibrate it. And when the machine has been exposed to extremes of conditions like high temperature or low temperature, it has to be calibrated. Having said that, most of the recommendations say that we have to calibrate the analyzer every day in the morning. So we do practice that.
No, sir, why I asked you this particular question is because before we were having this galvanic type of analyzers. Now we have paramagnetic type of analyzers. So with paramagnetic analyzers, still do we require to calibrate? Because, you know, I have spoken to these technicians who come of the company technicians. They say once in a week is also enough for paramagnetic type of aux analyzers. And no need. If it is only galvanic, then you may have to check it every day, calibrate it every day.
We do it on a daily basis. Our biomedical engineer comes every day and checks the analyzer and goes.
Another question, sir, regarding the breathing circuits, because we are using disposable breathing circuits. So majority of the times, even in our hospital also, we have the recirculation policy is also there, reuse policy. But should we have to change these circuits for each patient? Or because, you know, we are also from the COVID era, we have started using bacterial filters between the endotracheal tube and the circuit. So at the end of the day, is changing is better, or every patient you have to change?
I will tell you what we are doing. We are changing for all cases. Even if it's a short case, the circuit will be recycled, but it will be cleaned, disinfected, and then sent for sterilization. And it comes back in a sterile pack, and then we use it and we change it for each and every case we use. And the HME filters are discarded at each case, at the end of each case.
Oh, that is there, sir. That we have to, because our hospital policy is at the end of the day, we change the circuit because we are using regularly the bacterial filters. That may be definitely, as you said, that it is always better to change for each.
We are changing it. We are changing it for all cases.
So another question for you, sir, because when we are using bellow ventilator, so oxygen is being used as a driving gas at 55 to 60 psi.
Yes.
So how much of oxygen is actually spent for driving the bellows?
The oxygen which is used to drive bellows varies from 1 liters to 10 liters. It can be up to 10 liters. So when there is a failure of oxygen from the pipeline, it is better to switch out to manual mode to conserve whatever oxygen is there in the cylinder till the pipeline gas is re-established. That will be my response to this question.
Yeah, because I went through, because, actually how much of minute ventilation, what we have said, that amount of minute ventilation of oxygen is utilized when we are using the bellows.
That is true. That is true.
Which is not there with piston-driven ventilator. So suppose if a pipeline source gets exhausted and we start using our our cylinders, the backup cylinders, so should we have to go for manual ventilation, sir, in order to...
See, some of the machines have switch over from oxygen to air. So if that facility is there, you can switch over to air as a driving gas.
Okay.
The problem with the driving gas with air is sometimes there's condensation and the valves may get stuck. So most of the ventilators as a default mechanism have oxygen as driving gas. But if this happens, and if you want to save on oxygen, you can always use air, which is of a medical grade. So that condensation problems and other problems can be avoided.
Yeah, this problem will not be there if you are using a piston-driven ventilator.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. My next question will be to Dr. Rakesh Garg, our Chief Editor of ICA. Sir, what are the advantages? Because, just now I said that piston-driven ventilators do not use any driving gas as oxygen. So what are the other advantages of piston-driven ventilators?
I think if you see both the newer machines are coming more with the piston driven because they are more accurate and they can be controlled, and it is not being affected by the other external factors that we're discussing just now. So if we know about the precision, and especially when we are talking about the low flows, and if there is some leak, any inadvertent leak at any place, then those will change. But with piston, it will be more precise. So we can ensure that what we have set is more accurate for these patients, and that gives a benefit to us.
And how do we know that the piston or there is a disconnection whenever when we are using piston-driven ventilator? Even though there is a disconnection, there is still it will start working by taking air from the atmosphere, and then it will be driving air to the patient. Now, how do we know that the disconnection has occurred, sir, whenever we are using a piston-driven? Other than the disconnection alarms are always there. But otherwise, how do we know?
I think to my knowledge, it is the alarm system, the safety features in most of these machines, which will show that this disconnection has happened at any level, maybe at the machine level or the patient level. I'm not sure that what other parameters will look for. But yes, all those newer machines will guide you very nicely that the volume is being delivered. Also, most of the newer machines will have the expired tidal volume and the inspired one. So that again will give you the indication that yes, either the disconnection or is a loose connection or the leakage is happening at particular place.
So another thing here, sir, because we know that the bag is included in the circuit. So and it acts as a reservoir for the piston, actually. So whenever there is a disconnection, the bag collapses, sir.
Okay.
So that way, continuous monitoring of the bag also give us an idea. Yeah, whether there is any.
I think your point is good. You were mentioning in one of the videos also. So when we see these type of ventilators with anesthesia workstation, our ventilating bag should be on the place where it should be, and we wish looking for its movement, because if there's a leak somewhere, we know that yes, something is happening wrong. So I think it's one of the good visual indicators of the functionality of the ventilator in these anesthesia workstations.
So another thing, sir, because the presence of fresh gas flow decoupling valve will not allow the inspired the fresh gases directly entering into the inspiration or inspiratory limb and then directly to the patient. And accidental activation of the oxygen flush many times, which produces almost 35 to 60 liters of gas, is prevented from going to the patient and producing barotrauma. That is when you have a piston-driven ventilator and a FGF decoupling valve. So how this can be prevented in bellows type of ventilators? Their fresh gases are directly going to the patient.
So I think that's why if we see the safety features of the modern anesthesia workstation, in fact, even with the older machines, the fresh gas valve or the fresh gas button is well protected. So it is not into the vicinity or it's protruding out, so that even by chance it is not being pressed, and it will be clearly indicated. So I think as anesthesiologists, we should be careful from the manufacturing point of view and from the functional point of view that it is not actually accidentally pressed. And I think all the newer workstations, the buttons will be little hollowed up. They will be sometimes covered with a protective guard also. And I think that will give a lot of protection for preventing them accidentally pressing it and giving it a high flows of almost 60 liters that can cause barotrauma in these patients.
So another thing, sir, with modern workstations, they have a high pressure relief valve, sir. So which opens at around 50 to 60 centimeters of water pressure once the pressure increases there inside the system. So that way in bellows ventilators, especially ICIS CS square type of anesthesia workstations, this provision is there which actually releases the pressure. So high pressure relief valves are also there. That's another.
I think this, yeah, you're right, sir. And this safety feature is even in the extent to the boil separator. So I think when we're talking about the back pressure changes to the vaporizers, this feature was there in this, and it has been continued in the newer machines also. So I think that gives a lot of protection for not only the barotraumas for these patients, but also it prevents the back pressure changes, which changes the vapor pressure output, though we have a unilateral check valve there. But I think these are the safety features which has been now continued. The second thing I think Dr. Mukul was mentioning here also, that we should be cautious not to use it using the this oxygen flush too often during the anesthesia management. And he's absolutely right, Dr. Mukul is right, because sometimes we need to increase the flow to check there's some leak somewhere. So I think newer machines automatically will increase the flow if we are using for a lower flow. But why not to increase the flow and check it rather than having the uncontrolled oxygen flush? Because the newer machines, which was mentioned in the video also, and if we are using the low flows or we are targeting the end-tidal concentration of anesthetic agents, using the oxygen flush will change all those phenomena. And we are talking about the anesthetic depth, the end-tidal concentration. We should be more meticulous with the newer workstations. And if we try to bypass those features for some reason, probably will bypass many other safety features into this. So I think we should be, technology is good. Sometimes we also feel that safe, simple technique is also good. So we should understand the technology before using them effectively.
Many of our newer workstations also have almost majority of the modes of ventilation like what we have in ICU. So should we use these modes of ventilation, newer modes of ventilation like pressure support ventilation, pressure support Pro is also there, and then PRVC mode of ventilation is there. So when are we going to use all these newer modes of ventilation?
I think this is a very interesting question because maybe sometimes I feel it's a market driven, sometimes it feels it's a patient driven. So I will put it what my teachers have taught me, that the basics of ventilation remains the basics one. So if you know when to use volume control and when to use pressure control, I think that's sufficient for you for the basic management of majority of your patients. But when you work at a higher center and you get patients who have various changes in the physiology because of any pathology in the ventilatory system or the respiratory system, probably these newer modes are useful to us. And nowadays we are doing more complex surgical procedures, thoracic surgical procedures, airway procedures. I think these newer modalities are useful for those procedures. And it usually helps whether we are initiating those ventilation using the dual mode of ventilation or a grunted mode of ventilation or maybe a weaning mode of ventilation at the time of extubation. I think they are useful to a large extent, but we need to remember that we should not be forgetting the basic physiology of the patient. It's okay if we put them on a, say, a volume grunted mode with pressure control or something like this, but we need to understand if we are giving somebody a pressure controlled mode of ventilation, and if we add on volume grunted, what advantage it is going to give us. Should we keep, if we give a volume grunted of say 400 ml for a patient of 50 kg with a pressure control of say 20, but we have grunted the volume of 400, do you think that 400 is equally good for that patient? If you want to have lower volume, if you want to have lower pressure, we need to look for the patient physiology to choose a system. But I think I'll put it for the beginners, don't try to go for those fancy modes. Try to understand the physiology, learn them. And I think what my teachers have told me, that even those basic modes can be used in the expert hands as an expert mode or advanced mode. So don't be very fancied about things. Modes are modes, but finally they have to be selected by the anesthesiologist behind them and use it very selectively and efficiently for the benefit of your patient.
Sir, because we started using the supraglottic airway devices and allowing the patients to breathe spontaneously. Now I have started using this PSV mode very often when I leave the patient on spontaneous ventilation, because I was worried before that these patients will go for hypoventilation. Now with PSV mode, with the Pro, wherein the backup ventilation is also there, I think that is there. And even at the end of ventilation, at the end of the surgery, the patient starts breathing. I think SIMV modes and even the PSV modes can be utilized. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Garg, sir. So let me talk to Dr. Mukul Kapoor. Sir, one of the very important questions, actually in the video also we saw that recruitment maneuvers were there in many of the modern workstations. So should we have to use these recruitment maneuvers for all the patients to protect the lung and also to prevent postoperative pulmonary complications, or only we should restrict it to only certain patients with the lung diseases?
Thank you, Dr. Gurudat. It's a very important question, and I'm very passionate about this, actually, if you ask me. Recruitment maneuvers is something which we have been ignoring for years. And we were used to do sustained recruitment maneuvers, sustained inspiratory maneuvers earlier. But with the modern machines, you've got multi-step recruitment maneuvers. And that is the best thing about the machines. And this is there, of course, in certain G machines, the advanced stations. Also there in the Draga Perseus, etc. And I can assure you, we should be using them more regularly, especially in patients for laparoscopic surgery, robotic surgery, patients who are obese, who are undergoing long duration surgery, especially for these. Maybe for short surgeries, no. In short surgery, just depend on your PEEP, routine PEEP. But in patients who are obese, patients who have got rigid chest walls, patients who are in odd positions like very steep head down position, steep Trendelenburg position, it is very important to use recruitment maneuvers. And today, in all the modern hospitals, I would say, robotic surgery is being done right for almost everything under the sun. And it is very useful, especially for robotic surgery.
There are, one-step method, the multi-step method is also there. And in ICIS workstation, I saw that vital capacity mode is there. I think it's a single step type of recruitment maneuver, which we had in the previous older ventilators, the SI used to be there. Probably that is there as vital capacity now mode in newer workstations.
So what you said about the vital capacity breath, see, this is what we used to, particularly in cardiac anesthesia, it was a very common practice, cardiac and thoracic surgery. We used to press the bag and keep it pressed for a long time. And within no time, you'll find on the arterial line, your pressures are dropping. And the pressures at times, the patient became very hypotensive. And getting the patient back to normal tension was very difficult at times. So that is one of the biggest disadvantages of vital capacity breaths or sustained inspiratory maneuvers. It is rather safer to use multi-step recruitment maneuvers.
Sir, another this thing is, some of the workstations also have got this pause gas and then cardiac bypass. So can you just explain these things when we are going to use this?
Okay. I use both the modes again. And the pause gas is very good when you're intubating the patient. After you've reoxygenated or you've started your bag mask ventilation or mask ventilation, during the period in which you're going to intubate, the circuit is going to be open. And what people generally do is they close the vaporizer and think that nothing is going outside. But what happens is the circuit has a lot of inhalational agent, and that is getting vented into the OT atmosphere. To stop that, if you use the pause gas mode, then you stop all gases from flowing and you will not have any OT pollution at all. That is one of the biggest advantages. The same thing is there about the cardiac bypass thing. When you're going on cardiac bypass, if you use pause gas, it does not see the limit of pause gases that stops after one minute. After 1 minute, it stops. So you can't use it. And you don't, when you're going on bypass, you don't want to stop your machine also. So you've got that mode in which you can select the bypass mode, and automatically when the moment you select the machine is not off, but it stops delivering gases. So that's a very good safety mode again.
I think there are two cardiac bypass, manual cardiac bypass and VCV bypass. So in manual bypass, actually the gases also will not enter the patient, plus all the alarms get shut off. And in VCV bypass, the alarms get shut off, but only the patient will be ventilated with volume controlled ventilation. That is what I went through the particular machine's details, sir.
Actually, the VCV bypass is not very popular for a simple reason. Surgeons don't want lungs to move when they are operating, most of the surgeons. Because the recommendations are that there's a study called as Meccano study, which said that if you use low tidal volume ventilation during bypass, the chances of inflammatory response to bypass will be much lesser post-bypass. But unfortunately, surgeons are get irritated when they see the lung moving when they're doing bypass. So that's why it's not very popular.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So let me ask few questions to Dr. Baljit. Sir, good evening, sir.
Very good evening, sir. Very good evening. Yeah.
Because, majority of the modern workstations, they require power. So, and even the whole thing is many of these things, ventilator and then even the vaporizers, they are electrically and electronically controlled. Suppose if there is a power failure, so how we are going to manage?
Sir, a very important issue. We have come a long way from the times when you described that there was no Anesthesia machine, there were just some bellows and some small contraption in the name of Anesthesia machine. And at that time, the machines, when they came, we didn't have any, power backup or anything of that kind. And if the power went, we just would depend on the fluorescent back, and we'll keep on seeing the rotameters and the rotameter that it's there and how much gases are going. Now we have very modern Anesthesia machines. I think all these machines have been demonstrated so very well by all the colleagues. There is a power backup of all these machines. I mean, it varies from company to company. I mean, generally it is about 45 minutes to 90 minutes. Most of the machines have around 60 minutes or so. So the machine can carry on with that. There is no risk of the total darkness in the room, because the rim where particularly the rotameters are there, the rims are, they have a very soft light. So we, can see that very clearly, even if there is total darkness in the operating room. Apart from that, if this battery runs out, the 45 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever time is there, so then we can have the additional source of oxygen that is there in the modern machine. So this has been demonstrated earlier. So you just switch on that knob, you get 100% oxygen from there. But if you ventilate the patient with that, you will be ventilating the patient only with 100% oxygen only. I mean, you won't have other things available for that. So the risk of awakening of the patient is there. So, from inhalation, you may have to switch on to intravenous agents so that the patient remains under anesthesia. So these are some of the things, which are that we can do if there is a complete power failure.
If the vaporizer is not an electronic vaporizer,
yes,
then we can still use the inhalation anesthetic agents.
True,
But another very important thing, what we see nowadays is the monitoring of end-tidal oxygen also is there. So how it is going to help us, sir?
Well, end-tidal oxygen, as we all know, that this is oxygen at the oxygen concentration at the end of expiration. It reflects oxygen concentration in the alveolar space, and it's a very important determinant of arterial partial pressure of oxygen. It determines whether the pre-oxygenation is adequate or not. See, when we are giving 100% oxygen to the patient, so some oxygen is going to get absorbed, and what we get at the end is it should be more than 90%. If it is less than 90%, so that means there is some impairment of the gas exchange, whether it is because of the respiratory concerns or it's because of cardiac issues. So we should be careful about that. Critically ill patients may have a high ETO2, but yet they can have a short safe apnea time due to decreased functional reserve capacity. So these are the kind of patients we should be very, very concerned about when we are pre-oxygenating the patient.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your answer. So next, my question will be to Dr. Bilal. Dr. Bilal is explained about the MRI compatible anesthesia workstations. So I just want to know from Dr. Bilal about MRI compatible monitors. Can you just explain?
So there are two things involved in the MRI. First is the strong magnetic field. Second is the radio frequency, which will alter the field again and bring it back to the thing where the real image comes out. So the magnetic field is the problem. Any ferromagnetic thing goes inside, it will be attracted to the magnet. The magnet is 3 Tesla sometimes because of the resolution to be good. They use a 3 Tesla magnet, which is almost 60,000 times the magnetic power of the Earth. Earth is only around 1 Tesla, 0.9 or 0.6 Tesla, but this is going to be almost 3 Tesla. So this is a problem with the magnet. So no ferromagnetic, like our normal monitors, cannot go inside. And second thing, there is a gauge line there. So if you cross that 5 gauge line, which is very close to the machine, any equipment will start to not work properly, gets heated up, and things are problematic. So you have to have everything which is compatible, usually kept outside this line. Second thing is the ECG, for example. ECG electrodes should be made of graphite, not of aluminum or of a silver thing. They get heated up. Graphite is the one which will not be heated, and they should be close together. No wires which are long and coiled should not be there. It should be very close together, and it should be to an immediate transmitter. So it is a wireless transmitter from the patient side to the monitor. There is a slave monitor inside, and the main monitor will be outside. So you have 2 screens. One is the main monitor transmitting to the slave monitor outside. So because you cannot go inside the MRI room regularly, so you have to be away from the thing. So these batteries have to be charged and kept ready. We have a special place for them to be recharged quickly, because they get to you. We are working for 21 hours, 24 hours sometimes. So these batteries need to be changed. So 2 things. One, the patient's monitors will be close to his body. Particularly the pulse oximeter is not the wired and the light one. It is a fiber optic cable, because again the wiring gets heated up. It is a fiber optic cable, and the other ECG leads are made of graphite, and they are together. They are known as quad rod. So all the 4 leads are very close together and fixed, as I showed you in the video. So these things are left inside and become outside. And the rest of the monitoring of the gases and things, as usual, we are doing. And we visualize through the window, because we cannot have those things. And we have a camera focused onto the machine, which is in the room where we are sitting and watching the patient. So all the pumps, everything, all have to be MRI compatible, and all are very expensive. And if not, we have to use long dead space of the infusions and everything, and keep the equipment outside. But by God's grace, the newer machines and newer equipment are so compatible. So almost all of our things, even the instruments, the scissors, the knives, the forceps, everything has to be MRI compatible. Even the trolleys, the oxygen cylinder, by chance, the patient has some problem with the machine, you have to immediately bring an oxygen cylinder and try to ventilate him. That also should be made of aluminum. The fire extinguisher also are made of aluminum. So even the trolleys, whatever you bring, ladder, by chance you want to have some repair up, ladder also should be MRI compatible. So we have an area, and 2 or 3 of us are trained on the safety of MRI. So these guys keep inspecting, checking things. And patients with pacemakers, with old type of implants, clips which are old type. Now the latest are titanium, so they don't affect much, except for the quality of the image. Otherwise, everything was fine. So we have been doing this for the last almost 2004 to now, and we did more than 25,000-30,000 cases. So it is a practice, and as you said, safety is very important. This is because this is a very special environment, and the people who are not used to it will have danger. I lost my ATM card maybe 4 or 5 times. I forgot and I put it in my pocket and went inside. By the time I came out, the ATM was wiped out. So every time I have to pay 100-200 rupees to get my ATM back. So even my keys, sometimes I forget in the pocket, go inside, it starts to pull. They said my wife came here to pull me also behind. I was checking out, it was my keys. So you have to take care. Screwdrivers, knives, scissors, all this should be left outside. In your pager, your mobile. Pager was the older time. The mobiles, your watch. One day I put the watch and went inside. It was 5-6 hours I've gone through. I see the watch is the same time. Time also doesn't change. So these things don't work in the MRI environment. So if you take care and very safe things, it is really safe. And I think it will work out.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bilal. I think we have almost, I think I've exceeded the time given of 40 minutes. So I would like to thank all the panelists for their wonderful contribution. And thank you academics once once again.
I invite Dr. Baljit Singh for a formal vote of thanks. Baljit sir, please.
Well, friends, all good things come to an end, and so does this memorable, memorable in sense that this is a historic webinar that we have, 150th. It's a landmark event. We have been doing it. I mean, the whole team from ICA have been doing it with Dr. Sanish taking the lead. Every Wednesday, it's not an easy job. It's quite a tough thing, but what got us going, what kept us going was the response from the audience, the people who were watching these webinars. Every week after week, they were there with us, and that was a huge motivation to all of us. I thank all the participants who have taken active interest in joining in the webinars all these months and weeks. Special thanks, of course, to today Sanish, with which how he had conducted it. There was a very good 1 hour different presentation on different aspects of the Anesthesia machine, and thereafter the master of the ceremony was the panel discussion. Dr. Gurudat, the master himself with regard to the Anesthesia machine. I think his knowledge is superb. A very well conducted panel discussion. Must thank Dr. Kumar Belani, who woke up very early and joined us along with two of his colleagues from US, from the University of Minnesota. Thank Dr. Kanchi Mulida, the Dean, Dr. Mukul Kapoor, Dr. Kesh Garg. He joined from Spain. See, that shows the commitment of the person, that even though he is sitting so far away, he still was there online available. Special thanks to him. Dr. Muhammad Bilal again from King Saud University. Dr. Lakshmi Kumar for video presentations, as well as the participation in the discussion. I would be doing injustice in case I do not thank our technical support that is provided by Clinet, and special thanks to Ms. Rita for this. So friends, thank you so much. Till we meet next week again. God bless you all. Stay happy, stay healthy, and good night to everyone.